My cousin stole the money I saved for my son's life-saving surgery. With time running out, I had to fight back. Stay tuned for my full story. The morning sun cast a golden hue across the small, cluttered room where Anaya sat, counting the crumpled notes in her lap. Each rupee had been painstakingly saved over the past 2 years for a reason that mattered more than anything: her son's surgery. Her heart pounded as she recounted the amount, reassuring herself that she had reached the goal. It had been a long, arduous journey. The sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the extra shifts at the local clinic, everything had been for this moment. Little Arian, her 5-year-old son, had been diagnosed with a congenital heart condition. The doctors had warned her about the urgency, about the window she couldn't afford to miss. Just a few more weeks, she whispered, smoothing down the last of the notes into a neat stack. A knock on the door startled her. It was her cousin, Raghav, standing there with his usual easy grin. Anaya hesitated before inviting him in. Raghav had always been the reckless one in the family, the kind who borrowed money without any intention of returning it. She had kept her distance, but lately, he had been showing up more often, asking about her struggles, offering his help in vague, meaningless ways. She forced a smile. "What brings you here so early?" Raghav's eyes flickered towards the stack of cash for the briefest second before he leaned against the wall casually. "Just checking in. You've been working yourself to the bone lately." Anaya shrugged, trying to push away the unease creeping into her chest. She wrapped the money in a cloth bundle and locked it in the metal cabinet. "I'm fine," she said. "Just busy." Raghav nodded but didn't leave. Instead, he shifted uncomfortably before speaking again. "Look, Anaya, I wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent, but I need a loan." Her fingers stiffened around the cabinet key. "How much?" "Around 20,000. Anaya swallowed hard. That was nearly a quarter of what she had saved for Arian's surgery. "I can't," she said firmly. "It's for Arian. I can't risk it." For a moment, a flicker of something unreadable crossed Raghav's face, but then he laughed, shaking his head. "Of course. I understand. Just thought I'd ask." She watched him leave, the unease never quite leaving her. That night, exhaustion took over. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to sleep deeply. But when she woke up, the nightmare had already unfolded. The lock on the cabinet was broken. The bundle of money, gone. Her breath hitched as she yanked open every drawer, every box, frantically hoping she had misplaced it. But deep down, she knew. She already knew. Her cousin had stolen the money meant to save her son's life. Anaya's hands trembled as she clutched the open cabinet door, staring at the empty space where the money had been. Her heart pounded in her chest, her breath coming in sharp, uneven gasps. "No," she whispered, shaking her head as if she could will reality to change. "No, no, no." She dropped to her knees, searching under the bed, inside her drawers, between the folds of her saris, anywhere, even though she knew deep down that it was useless. The money wasn't misplaced. It was stolen. Her mind raced through the events of the previous day, and all signs pointed in one direction: Raghav. Tears burned her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. This wasn't the time to break down. Arian's surgery was just weeks away. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much to let everything slip through her fingers now. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands and dialed Raghav's number. It rang twice before he picked up. "Didi," he said, his voice casual, as if he hadn't just ruined her life. "Where's my money?" she demanded, her voice cold and hard. There was a beat of silence, then an exaggerated sigh. "What are you talking about?" Anaya gritted her teeth. "Don't play games with me, Raghav. You were the only one who knew where I kept it. I swear, I have no idea what you're talking about." "Stop lying," she snapped, her voice rising. "I worked 2 years for that money. It was for Arian's surgery. If you needed help, you could have asked, but you—" Her voice broke, but she forced herself to keep going. "You stole it, Raghav, and I want it back. Now." "Didi, you're overreacting," Raghav said, his tone dismissive. "Money comes and goes. Arian will be fine. Kids heal fast." His words sent a bolt of fury through her. "How dare he? Do you even hear yourself?" she hissed. "This isn't just money. This is my son's life." "Calm down," he muttered. "I'll try to arrange something." "Try?" she repeated, disbelief choking her. "You will return every single rupee, Raghav, or I swear." The call disconnected. Anaya stared at the phone in shock before rage took over. She grabbed her dupatta and stormed out of the house, her feet pounding against the pavement as she made her way to Raghav's home. She didn't care about the scene she might create. She didn't care if the neighbors stared. All she cared about was getting her money back. When she reached his house, she banged on the door with all her strength. "Raghav, open the door." It took a few moments before the door creaked open, and there he stood, looking annoyed rather than guilty. "Didi, why are you yelling?" he said, his voice low, as if he didn't want anyone to hear. Anaya shoved past him and marched inside. "Where is it?" she demanded, turning to face him. "Give me my money, or I swear I will call the police right now." His expression darkened. "Didi, you're making a big mistake." "No, Raghav," she interrupted, her voice shaking with anger. "The mistake was trusting you. But I won't let you destroy Aryan's chance at life." For a moment, she thought she saw a flicker of guilt in his eyes. But it was gone as quickly as it came. "I don't have it," he admitted, crossing his arms. Anaya felt her stomach drop. "What? I needed it," he said, avoiding her gaze. "I had some debts. I paid them off." Her world tilted. You used my son's surgery money to pay your gambling debts?" she whispered, horror washing over her. He said nothing. Anaya staggered back, her breath catching in her throat. This couldn't be happening. Her hard work, her sleepless nights, all for nothing? Tears threatened to spill, but she blinked them back. She couldn't afford to break down. "I'm giving you one last chance, Raghav," she said, her voice cold as steel. "Give me my money back. You have 1 week." Raghav scoffed. "Or what?" She stepped closer, looking him dead in the eye. "Or I will go to the police. And you know they won't go easy on a thief." His expression faltered. Anaya turned on her heel and walked out, her heart hammering. She had 1 week. 1 week to save her son. 1 week to undo Raghav's betrayal. And she wouldn't stop until she got her money back. Anaya walked back home, her mind racing through every possible solution. She had given Raghav a week, but deep down, she knew he wouldn't return the money. He had always been selfish, reckless, and incapable of feeling remorse. She needed a backup plan, fast. The next morning, she visited the bank, hoping for a loan. She explained her situation to the manager, but his expression remained impassive. "I understand your urgency, Mrs. Anaya," he said, folding his hands on the desk. "But without collateral, we can't approve a loan of this amount." "Please," she whispered, desperation creeping into her voice. "My son's life depends on this surgery." He sighed, shaking his head. "I'm truly sorry. If there's anything else I can do." But there wasn't. She left the bank with heavy steps, feeling the weight of helplessness settle on her shoulders. She spent the rest of the day making calls, reaching out to old friends, distant relatives, anyone who might help. But the responses were all the same. Some sympathized but had no money to spare, while others made empty promises. By nightfall, she sat in her dimly lit room, staring at Aryan's peaceful face as he slept. His tiny chest rose and fell steadily, but she knew it wouldn't always be that way. The doctors had been clear. Without the surgery, his condition would worsen. She wiped away a tear and made a decision. If Raghav wouldn't return the money willingly, she would force him to. The next morning, she went straight to the police station. The officer at the front desk listened patiently as she explained everything. How she had saved for 2 years, how Raghav had stolen the money, and how he was now refusing to return it. "Do you have any proof?" the officer asked, jotting down notes. Anaya hesitated. "He was the only one who knew where I kept it. And when I confronted him, he admitted to taking it." The officer nodded. "That's enough for us to question him. But I have to warn you. If he refuses to return the money and we take legal action, it could take months before you see a resolution." "Months?" Anaya didn't have months. "Just talk to him," she pleaded. "Maybe if he sees that I'm serious, he'll give it back." The officer agreed, and within the hour, Raghav was brought to the station. He looked furious, his jaw clenched as he glared at her. "Seriously, Didi? You called the police on me. You left me no choice," she said, her voice unwavering. The officer folded his arms. "Mr. Raghav, your cousin claims you stole a large sum of money meant for her son's surgery. Do you deny this?" Raghav scoffed. "It's a misunderstanding. I was going to return it." "Then return it now," the officer said firmly. Raghav shifted uncomfortably. I don't have it right now." Anaya felt anger surge through her veins. The officer leaned forward. "Mr. Raghav, theft is a serious crime. If you don't return the money, we will be forced to press charges. Raghav's cocky demeanor faltered. I need time. How much time? Anaya demanded. A few weeks. No, she shook her head. You have 3 days, Raghav. If I don't get my money by then, I will file an official case against you. The officer nodded in agreement. You'd be wise to listen. Raghav cursed under his breath, but didn't argue. Anaya walked out of the station with a renewed sense of hope. She had given him no way out. Now, she just had to wait. 3 days passed. On the third evening, Raghav showed up at her doorstep. He looked exhausted, his usual arrogance replaced by unease. I have most of it, he muttered, handing her a bundle of notes. Anaya's fingers tightened around the cash as she quickly counted. It wasn't the full amount, but it was close. This is still short, she said. I'll get the rest soon, he promised, avoiding her eyes. She stared at him, wondering if she could believe him. But right now, she didn't have time to argue. Fine, she said. But if you fail to bring the rest, I will not hesitate to finish what I started. Raghav nodded before turning away. Anaya closed the door, her heart pounding. She had almost everything. It wasn't over yet, but she had won this battle. 2 weeks later, Aryan's surgery was successfully completed. As Anaya sat by his hospital bed, watching him sleep peacefully, she finally allowed herself to breathe. She had fought for her son, and she had won. The end.